you put in a new technology, your costs are going to be higher. Your training is going to be higher. Now you got to have somebody to train it. And, you've got to have somebody go out and sell it. So is the risk a little higher? Sure. But your rewards are going to be higher because you presumably now have something that you didn't before that can bring higher profitable work, or that nobody else has that on the floor. So you get the jump on everybody else. And if you treat your customers well, they're not going to leave you. They're not going to leave you if you've done nothing wrong, if you've serviced them well, if you've given them good products, and you always have the machines and the resources and the services that they need, right? They have no reason to leave you and go somewhere else.
Welcome to the Machine Shop Mastery Podcast, where we uncover the stories behind successful machine shops and their owners. By interviewing current and former shop owners, we dig deep to unveil their secrets of success and the struggles and challenges they've overcome on their paths to building thriving shops. We aim to elevate how important the machining industry is and inspire others by highlighting why owning a shop can be a great vehicle to creating jobs, stimulating the economy, and creating wealth. Here's our host, former machine shop owner himself, Paul Van Meter.
Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of Machine Shop Mastery. It's great to have you here. Today, I had a great conversation with Jayme Rahz from Midway Swiss Turn. This is a very cool business. I met Jayme down at the Top Shops conference just a few weeks ago. She was one of the 4 award winners of the very top shop, in her case, Shop Floor Best Practices. And it's no surprise after this conversation. They have a very dialed-in business, focusing primarily on Swiss turn, but some 5-axis robot-fed milling as well. This is a business that just has got it dialed in. So we talk about, of course, the origin story, starting in a garage with her father-in-law, and then the growth story over the last many years now. We get into just the flexibility of how they make it a great working environment and their teams and different shift schedules. We talk about a really interesting, creative way they have leaned into doing sales with a salesperson on their team that formerly was a machinist. Very interesting. We talk about the systems that they're using to run the company with. She has an interesting perspective on technology and the risk-reward sort of profile of new machines and new technology. So I know you're going to have a lot of takeaways from this one. Please enjoy it. It was a great conversation. So let's get into it here with Jayme. Jayme, welcome to the Machine Shop Mastery Podcast. It's great to have you here.
Good to be here.
So you and I got to record a podcast with Making Chips at the Top Shop conference just a couple of weeks ago. And it was a great event. And you and the other Top Shop award winners, shared a lot of great insights about how you became Top Shops and what you do as businesses to get into that very upper echelon of shop performance. And I thought it would be a great opportunity for you and I to sit down and dig a little deeper into the entire story of Midway Swiss. So why don't you start by giving a little bit of an introduction of yourself and then the business, and we'll get into the backstory.
Oh, sure. So my name's Jayme. We're here in Worcester, Ohio. We run, it's our family shop. My father-in-law started it in the mid-'70s, pretty typical for his generation. They just didn't want to work for anybody else.
Yep.
So he started his own shop, put a machine in the garage. And actually his first customer was his old employer. And we still do business with him today. So it's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
My husband got out of the Navy, came to work for his dad, and we got married, and I started working there as well. And it's kind of grown from there.
Okay. Maybe it's to be assumed, but with Swiss Turn in the name of the business,
yes.
You guys...
So yes, we run Swiss machines. That's right. Yes, we run the Citizen Swiss screw machines. We have 7 of them on the shop floor right now. We've got a couple mills. We do have a 5-axis mill with a robot as well. And we just recently put a Miano, a 51 millimeter Miano on the shop floor just a couple months ago to really open up our bar stock capacity. We've been running Citizens for 20 plus years now.
Wow. Very cool. And what industries do you tend to serve?
All of them. All of them. So we really like to have a really diverse customer list, both in the type of industry and in the type of customer. About the only thing we steer clear of is high volume automotive. We found a lot of those shops become kind of like a captured shop. They do so much work with them that you kind of lose the rest of your customer base. So we've intentionally steered clear of doing too much automotive. But other than that, typical fasteners, hardwares, oil and gas, agriculture, DOD, aerospace, firearms, whatever
Right.
it is. If it can be turned, we can do it. And then we try to diversify our customer base too. So we have some other machine shops, but we like end users. We do have small users, startups, large multinational corporations, and kind of everything in between. So typically, if one industry is down, another one's up, and it keeps it kind of evened out for us.
Okay. Well, that sounds like very wise, broad diversification across pretty much every angle you could imagine. So I'm sure that's been and we'll get into your sales and marketing strategy a little bit later, but I'm got to believe that's been part of your success over the years, is being that diversified and having that be a priority.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. So what year did you and your husband sort of get involved, and maybe when did you take the reins in charge of the place?
Yeah. So my husband got out of the Navy in the late 90s and started there. And it was still all manual machines then. Being a kid, right? At the time, being a kid, he's like, we need some computers in here. So he brought in the first CNC machine, which was, looking back on it, was a broken down old Cincinnati lathe. And I'll tell you what, it got us into the CNC industry, but I'm surprised that it did, because it was rough to use. I came along, I started helping out in the early 2000s, but probably started working full time about 2005. It was really growing to the point where they needed help in the office, right? That's how it always starts. We need somebody to kind of keep the books and do the shipping and receiving and call the customers, because they're machinists. They want to work on the machine. And it just evolved from there. My background was in the environmental industry, really, but all of Northeast Ohio primarily at the time. So, this manufacturing industry wasn't new to me. I just did a little different stuff in it beforehand, more like EPA permitting and OSHA work and stuff.
Okay.
So it's kind of natural for me to go into the same types of customers. I'm just working with them in a little different aspect now.
Sure.
And I grew with the company just like everybody else did. As we got bigger, there was more stuff to learn, more stuff to do, and I did that. And so we naturally grew into a rhythm where I took care of pretty much everything but the machines, and they took care of the machining.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned a family business. Obviously, you still have family in it beyond you and your husband.
Yeah. So my father-in-law still comes around every now and then.
Very nice.
Less machining, more walking around with a coffee cup in his hand, making sure, we're keeping it under control. My brother-in-law, my husband, and I all work here. And then my two kids actually work here part-time during the summer when they're not at school.
Hey, Paul, next year's 2026. Guess what happens?
That means it's an even year, which means IMTS is happening.
I'm so excited. And I assume Pro Shop will be there exhibiting again, as always.
Yeah, it'll be our 5th time, I think.
Wow.
Would have been 6 if COVID hadn't happened. But yeah, even after being there that many years, there's a lot to understand about that show. It is a massive event, massive execution to exhibit.
Well, and a big investment, right? It's your time, your money.
It is a big investment. Yeah, it's one of our biggest marketing investments for sure.
Well, I'm looking forward to in January, you and Nick and I are going to be at the IMTS Exhibitor Workshop, where exhibitors can come and learn how to get their most out of IMTS.
Yeah, the workshop is fantastic. There's a bunch of different benefits from it. One, you can connect with all the vendors for your furniture, for your logistics, getting all your stuff in and out of the show, electrical, everything. But this year, they're also doing an executive session or series. So really focused on getting the most out of the conference. How are you going to go in with a marketing plan, really execute it, and get your maximum ROI if you're exhibiting at the show?
Well, it's a major commitment to go to the show. I mean, I go as an attendee, but seeing all the work that goes into it, if I was exhibiting, I would definitely want to maximize my experience there and get the most out of it. And the workshop I know is going to be interactive, where they really work through things, like you said, you can place the orders, all that type of stuff. And, that's going to bring a bunch of value to exhibitors.
Yeah, absolutely. The difference between coming with a plan and executing on that, it's a big difference as opposed to just showing up, throwing up your booth and hoping for the best. So yeah, it's definitely advisable. So exhibitors that want to make more of it, whether they're first time exhibitor or even if they've done it many times, but they really want to maximize their ROI this time, they should definitely show up at this thing. And what are the dates again?
Yeah, so it's January 27th through 29th at the McCormick Place. So you kind of get familiar with where your booth's going to be and all that type of stuff. To find out more, people should just go to amtonline.org/events and get signed up, and we'll see you there in January.
Sounds good, Mike. Wonderful. That is a great story.
Yeah.
And do you have some additional employees as well?
Sure. Yeah, we have about 14 people on payroll right now. So I recently hired a general manager, which has just done wonders for us because it takes some of the day-to-day operational stuff off of my shoulders and allows me to kind of look at the bigger picture. We've got 3 or 4 machinists out there now. We have a salesman now about 2 years, and we just hired a QA manager as well. And we have a new shipping and receiving manager coming on board next week.
Okay, very nice. You guys are in growth mode, it sounds like.
Yeah, quite a few people. So we're growing pretty fast.
That's exciting. So you've been there about 20 years. Just share maybe some of the big moves or progressions over that 20-year period as you brought on more CNCs or the 5-axis or, you said sales and marketing person about 2 years ago. The sort of inflection points and decisions, often kind of, when I think about the growth of a typical shop, there's certain things they do that sort of boost their growth. And maybe share some of the ones that you guys have gone through the last couple decades. Yeah.
For sure, the first one was when we decided to invest in our Citizen Swiss screw machines. We were literally in an oversized garage at the time, mostly with some very manual mills, manual lathe, and like I said, we had our one CNC lathe in there. We had a job opportunity with a current customer that was beyond kind of tool and die work and very much more production. Pretty quickly, we realized we were going to need to buy a nicer brand new CNC machine. And through research, we found these, Swiss machines that would be ideal for it. And at the time, we contacted, maybe 2 or 3 different Swiss machine dealers, and nobody would call us back because we're a 3-man operation in what looks like a garage. The only one that called us back was Mark Klecka from Concentric Corporation, and he is our local Swiss. The Citizen Swiss dealer. And I'm so glad it was him. The hindsight being what it is, I'm so glad it was him because the support they've given us has been great. So we bring this machine in, and we all have to mortgage our houses to get this machine here.
Yeah.
And we put it in a glorified garage, get all the material in, and it's our first long run job. It's supposed to run about a year on this machine. Before we even got our first payment from them, maybe before we even shipped our first batch of parts, they went belly up and closed up shop. Just overnight disappeared.
Oh.
Yeah. So
oh, gosh, that's rough.
Yeah. After throwing up a little bit and trying to figure out what I was going to do, because, keep in mind, we thought this was going to be tied up for a good year, and it was going to basically pay that machine off. I didn't worry about trying to sell it. I wasn't doing sales or anything then. I was just keeping the books. So we very, very quickly had to learn how to sell this service to our customers who, 20 plus years ago, people weren't running Swiss like they were now. We had to educate them on the benefits of the Swiss, how it was better than these manual, blanket off of a lathe and then put it on a mill and, flip it 3 times and do 4 operations on it. Right. So Concentric Mark Klecka spent a lot of time with me, teaching me how to sell this machine. In addition to that, when he would do sales and he'd find these customers that they needed a job or 2, but they couldn't justify buying a Swiss machine, he would send them our way. So,
oh, what a gentleman. That's awesome.
Oh, they were instrumental in our success. And something that you're going to hear me say throughout this whole thing is, it's the relationships we make with our customers, our vendors, with our people. That's what makes us successful. And he, as our vendor, was, he has like really contributed to our success. So we get past this first year and he says, all right, when are you going to buy your second one? He says, they're like potato chips. You can't have just one. And I said, man, you're crazy. I'm never going to do this again. What are you talking about? And here we are with 7 on our floor plus a Miano. And I think we've bought maybe 10 or 11 at this point and already started swapping them out and stuff. So that was a huge pivotal moment for us. And, it's really hard to go through. But I also look at all the wisdom, knowledge, and stuff that we gained by having to go through that process. Because had we not, we might have just had that machine sitting on the floor. It's running this one job, kind of paid it off. So, we wouldn't have gotten aggressive with trying to sell it. And it really changed how we thought about selling our services to our customers and what that looked like. So I had to hit the road pretty quick and learn a whole bunch of technology, a whole bunch about machining, about Swiss machining specifically, really fast. So that was a pivotal moment for us.
Yeah, what a story. When you needed to go sell those, you said hit the road. Did you literally just go out and, knock on doors? Yeah.
Yeah. So back then, we're talking 20, yes, the internet was around, but it wasn't used like it is today, right? With social media and all that kind of stuff. So by and large, I was hitting the road. I, of course, went to all of our current customers to see if they had needs, and then kind of expanded from there. Word of mouth worked great for us. We had always provided a good service for our customers. So we would see just people starting to call on us when they found out, once they understood what this is and found out that technology was there. So, having a good name and quality and stuff really helps too. But Yep, I hit the road in my car with maybe a cell phone, maybe not even a cell phone back then,
Sure.
Maybe I thought a pager.
Yeah. With a physical map,
Right.
Probably,
Oh, yeah. An atlas. I had the atlas. Yeah.
I remember those days as well in the early days of our shop. But you said something that I want to come back to. You said this was different than the tool and die work that you guys did.
Oh, yeah.
So clearly you inherent in that means you guys have kind of reinvented the company, and I'm guessing Swiss Turn wasn't in your name back when you were a tool and die shop. So some rebranding,
we were General Tool and Die.
General Tool and Die.
General Tool and Die. Yep, that was us. And we rebranded with the Swiss once we kind of made a go for that. Yeah. So I don't even know how that job first came about. It was with a customer that we did tool and die work with, and just maybe some general machining, and the opportunity just presented itself. And I, looking back on it, the fact that they were willing to take that risk as entrepreneurs, as a small business, right? That, it's really huge when I think of it. Like, most people just would have been like, oh, we don't have machines to run that. And walked away from it. And they looked at it and said, oh, we can spend a ton of money on this and take this risk, but the payoff could be good. And being a group of entrepreneurs like they are, they kind of all thought the same. They're like, oh, yeah, let's do it. I'm like, you guys are crazy. I'm very risk adverse. I mean, my job previous to that was working with things like OSHA and EPA. Like, I'm very risk adverse, systems oriented type of person. So, we balance each other out, I think. Yeah,
it takes the strengths of both of those personality types to make it all work. Oh, that's fantastic. I want to dig into, you already talked about your diversity and clients. That's wonderful. And I imagine the culture there at the shop is very sort of family friendly, and so talk about your culture. How you built it. Has it just been organic? A lot of intentional work. And maybe tie that into your sort of workforce development and how you find and retain and recruit people.
I would say a lot of it was organic, because I pretty quickly took the lead of the shop, and I had never worked in a machine shop before as an employee, right? I had no preconceived notion of what a machine shop should look like. So we started with family, which is easy. I had a crib in my office where the babies came, eventually, and would hang out all day with me. So, family oriented for sure. We absolutely were. when we had to start hiring people, there was some pretty unique challenges. We don't have a shop set up where, hey, you come here, work for a year, and then then you get promoted to, I don't know, machine shop supervisor, and then there's this position and this, it doesn't work like that in a small shop. We all do a little bit of everything. There's a lot of work to do. And also, by the way, you've got 3 bosses because you have 3 owners here. And, we don't differentiate at 3 and 4 people. You can't differentiate with different, systems or different places. There's not like a quoting place and a salesman, and it's you all do everything. So
right.
it had unique challenges. On top of that, we had nobody else in the county running Swiss machines, so there was zero talent on the machines that we were running at this point. We had to train everybody. Everybody that's come through our doors, we've had to train. So we really started to focus on looking for the right qualities in a new hire, their work ethic, honesty, that kind of stuff, because that really lent itself to a better employee than somebody that just knew how to run a machine. Mm-hmm. We can train machines. I can train somebody to run. They can learn. So as long as they had a willingness to learn and work in a slightly different environment, it seemed to work out. So we have, like I said, we're bringing our 14th person onto payroll here next week. We have fairly low turnover, but we don't hire that much either. So it's easy to say I have low turnover, especially when half of us are family,
Sure.
But we really invest in them. We're not over here saving lives. We're machining parts. That can happen at any time of the day. So we let them, by and large, we work with them on their hours. They all, I think every single one of my employees has different hours from anybody else in the shop. This one wants to do 7 to 3. This one wants to do 4:10. I have another guy that I don't know what he's doing. He likes to be in here at 4:30. It kind of doesn't matter as long as we have the hours covered, with the exception of my salesmen and anybody that has to talk to customers. They need to be in kind of the 8 to 5.
Sure.
But we work with them to give them the environment to really let them do their best work, to let them spend time with their family. They probably get yelled at more for being at work than not being here. I hear something like, "Oh, I'm missing my daughter's, dance recital." I'm like, "Why are you here? Get out of here. Do not come in sick. Do not miss family time together. I don't want to hear how you didn't go on vacation because you didn't want to take off work. That doesn't fly here."
That's good. I think that's a really wise long-term strategy, and making it evident to your people that you care about them as people, and that will probably reciprocate in being very loyal to the company as well.
I mean, that's a fine result, but I don't do it for that. I just do it because I think it's just a natural thing to do. I mean,
sure.
Like you said, people are people. Why wouldn't I treat them like that?
Yeah, for sure. With trying to balance that with getting production out the door, can you just describe a little bit of what you guys do? Obviously, with your Swiss machines, there's a lot of fairly unattended, time, I imagine. So that maybe perhaps makes that a little bit more feasible than people running a bunch of vertical machines without automation on them. So maybe just share a little bit of how you make sure you get your throughput and, hitting schedules with all these disparate, schedules of the people themselves.
Well, right. So, going back to how we first got into this with CNC machining, we did kind of, I don't want to say we fell into it, but we were very early adopters of this type of automation with the bar feeders. You couple that with machinists. My machinists, anyways, I'm not speaking for anybody else. Mine, they love machines. They don't love people. Right? They're not social creatures. They want to keep their heads down, be in the machines. That's what they like to do, which is why they let me handle everything else. So we started to see this kind of environment evolving where we would use automation to avoid having to hire a lot of people. So traditionally at the time, you might buy a mill and you would have somebody that would stand in front of that mill all day long, just flipping parts over, loading them, or a lathe and chucking them up. And, with the 2 brothers there, with my husband and my brother-in-law, we didn't have time to do that. So once we saw that technology of the Swiss machine, we kind of were all in. I joke about the potato chips and you can't have just one, but we kind of are all in because we're like, well, we can buy 2, 3, 4. I think we ran up to 5 of them before we hired our first other machinist.
Mm.
So we got into this just very organic. It wasn't really intentional. It happened to be that we just prioritized that automation to keep that overhead, that employee count down and that overhead down. And it worked well for us throughout the years. So when we now look at our shop floor now, they do kind of pair off so that we have a couple people kind of more of a morning day shift and some that are maybe evening afternoon shifts. And we do try to ask people like, what shifts do you want to work, and make sure that, not everybody wants to come in at the same time. In addition to that, we've really adopted a lot of technology and software so that we can see and have visibility into what's going on in the shop floor. And that helps that my leadership teams, like my general manager and stuff, really know where to put the resources kind of in the moment. We don't have to guess about where we need more resources, whether it's more machines, people, measuring devices. It's crazy sometimes the things that we figure out that we need, a better way to spin chips. A better parts washer. We're able to see all of that in the moment and really see where those bottlenecks are. And most of the time it isn't about just brute force or brute time that you have to put out there. It's really making what you're doing more efficient. So we utilize Harmoni and paperless parts and an ERP system to do all of that. Nice.
And there was Adam from Harmoni was at the Top Shop conference, and he got a nice plug when you guys were chatting on stage. Maybe for those not familiar, just share a little bit about how that system works and how you utilize it.
Sure. So at its heart, it's a machine monitoring system, which we had used before. We had some that were not so good. We didn't find them very beneficial. Adam's is a little different because it has that typical machine monitoring, but it doesn't just track your spindle time. Most of them, they just look at your up spindle time, which doesn't reflect everything that machine's doing. So we have the ability to actually see what's going on if the machine stopped. Let's say there's a cutoff tool's worn and we need to do an adjustment or an offset. We actually track that in this device that's right at the machine. And we can, we start to then learn how that job's running. Like, hey, every 100 tools or 100 pieces, we have to do an offset on this tool. So, maybe we change it X amount of pieces before it breaks. So it doesn't especially like your spot drills and your drills. So it doesn't just wipe out everything after that,
Mm-hmm.
So it can track that kind of stuff. It also does and tracks quality. So all of our quality checks, what we found, our shop's kind of long. So every 10 pieces, 20 pieces, however often they have to measure them, my guys would take the last piece off of the machine, walk clear to the QA room, measure everything, walk clear back. Now, it's not the 30-second walk that kills them. It's the 3 people that stop them on that walk and want to chat, right?
Of course.
Or ask them for help or on something, or here's a donut, whatever it is, right? So having them be able to set up QA stations right at each machine and be able to record it at the machine, and to be able to record it so that we have that in real time versus just on a piece of paper. The minute that goes on the piece of paper, I'll tell you when it gets looked at, like when the person's filing it away because the job's done. That's when it gets looked at. It's not useful. So now we have quality data kind of in real time as well. And we're getting ready to even be able to put, you can actually put little Bluetooth things on like your calipers, your mics or something like that. And they'll actually beam it right to the, So, again, because, most of my machinists, they don't like having to do all the QA checks. They take a lot of time. They're cumbersome. So anything we can do to make their job easier, it makes them more efficient, makes everything run easier.
Nice. And then how do you monitor that at the leadership level of sort of the trends or the things that you're looking for?
Yeah. So a lot of that information, first of all, the Harmoni device has a dashboard. So we can get on that dashboard and it'll tell us what each machine or each job is doing in real time. Also, it can integrate with our ERP system. So let's shove that data back into our ERP system. So then we can use it for reports and, matrix and all our metrics and all that kind of stuff.
Nice. Okay. When it comes to, analyzing that data, maybe looking at maybe job costing on a job, how transparent are you with the team about, where you're doing well, where you're not, where you need to make improvements to the process, or just, some shops have kind of an open book kind of policy and they share the big numbers. Where do you guys fall on that
Yeah, I mean, we're pretty transparent. I don't let anybody just sit down and look at, all of our
Browse through your
accounting and
QuickBooks.
yeah,
Sure.
right. Yeah. Like here, that's not open to everybody, but we are very transparent as a whole with how we're doing, how healthy we are as a company. I don't ever want my employees to be surprised if they're seeing there's a downturn in the market, or like, let's say COVID, that was kind of the last big thing that we've all been through, right? Well, tariffs now, but when these things are happening, we're not sitting up here pretending like everything's fine and not communicating with them. We let them know what the industry is doing and what it looks like and the potential for whatever to come our way. So we keep them informed, and that's in good times and in bad times. Sometimes it's bad times. They're like, hey, this is a rough time, but here's the steps we're taking to protect your job, right? And as owners, we always prioritize the employees over ourselves. I mean, there's been plenty of times that we've not taken paychecks or whatever, for sometimes quite a few months, because we don't want to lay off employees. And, it's not their fault, and they're not the ones that made the choices that led to that, So we do prioritize them over us. We also, on a job by job basis, make sure that they understand what they're doing out there matters. So if, the machines are setting and now that's run 4 days instead of 2 or something like that, we do let them know what the costing on that job looks like and how it made that job go from profitable to not profitable. But then we talk through the steps of why did that happen? Because 9 times out of 10, it means that as leadership, we still have to step in and see why didn't they have the resources to do what they needed to be doing. So, we do that kind of stuff. And then we apply the resources where we need them if we can. And if we can't, then we sit down and we talk as a team and recognize, hey, we know we need somebody else. We don't have the funds. There's nobody out there. There's a million reasons to hire or not to hire somebody at any given time. And we talk through that and, what can we do instead?
In manufacturing, growth isn't accidental, it's engineered. But a lot of suppliers are still building their pipeline on outdated lists, inconsistent follow-up, and hope-based marketing, hoping their website will somehow bring in leads. Gabe Draper, the founder of Factur, knows that struggle. Years ago, he ran a shop that went bankrupt, not because of quality, but because he didn't have a steady way to generate new opportunities. That experience is what led him to build Factur. Factur helps suppliers create consistent sales opportunities by combining targeted outreach with marketing that puts you in front of the right buyers. Their team finds the right companies, starts real conversations, and sets qualified meetings. So if your pipeline swings with referrals or seasonality, Factur brings a system that puts you back in control. And for listeners of this show, Factur is offering a free custom report that highlights the best opportunities in your industry, plus a list of real companies that match what you do. Request yours at facturmfg.com/chips. That's FACTURMFG.com/chips. I like the approach. That's great. And certainly I understand the, employees first, owners last mentality. And I'm sure as a self-stated risk averse person, you're like, oh man, this is making me uncomfortable.
It does. Now, I've been doing this almost 30 years now. So I'm starting to get the swing of things and understand it and stuff. But yeah, but for all my risk adverseness, I'm like even more so for my employees. Like I don't like it. They don't like it even more, and again, they have less control over it. So, yeah, it's a rough thing, but being a business owner, it is not for the weak because that it just comes at you all the time.
Mm-hmm. And, as listeners will undoubtedly hear me say it many times, not just business owner, but owner of a machining company. It's the hardest business in the world, right? There's so many things that can go wrong and all the stars have to align to have it go right and make the margin you quoted on your original estimate. So
has that ever happened? If you're either way low or like somehow we're like running this like 3 times faster than we thought and you're like, all right, I don't know what happened, but we're going to go with it.
Sure. Maybe that's an interesting segue. When you do have those jobs that don't go to plan, do you have a formalized process to look at, what you can do to fix the process, or you need to go back to the customer and say, I'm sorry, we missed quoting on this. We need to raise our price. Maybe just walk us through some of that, because some shops I know have a harder time not only understanding which jobs they're making money on or losing on, but then what to do about it once they've realized they have something that's out of whack.
Yeah, I mean, for me, and again, this goes back to my risk adverse, right? Having data is super important. So I want as much data, as much information along every step of our process. We were fairly early adopters of an ERP system. I think there was 4 of us here when we got our ERP system for the, most people are still just using QuickBooks or a typewriter or a ledger book at that point, right? But for me, it was really important to capture as much data, because every time I had to stop what I was doing and go ask a question simply because that answer only lived in that person's head, like that's inefficient to me. And also, what if that person's not here? Can we recreate what we were doing? And the answer is no, you can't. You have that tribal knowledge. If you don't capture it, especially right now, as we have an entire generation kind of leaving this industry, right? So very early on, I was like, we have to capture as much data and information as possible. And that included how we quote and estimate jobs. I need to know what that estimator is thinking at the time he's estimating the job, because a lot of times you can go 3, 4, 5 months, sometimes a year, between when you quoted that job and when you win it.
Sure.
So a year later, how did we quote this? What were we thinking? Because all I have is a price for 32 cents. What were we doing? So we, having an ERP system that did quoting was phenomenal to start that process. We later adopted, around the time of COVID, we adopted paperless parts, which is an estimating platform. And it collects so much data. So we start right at the onset. Every bit of data that comes about that job, that part that we're estimating, gets captured in that, including the chats back and forth and the questions back and forth with the customers. And I demand that our estimators do that. If you don't know something, you ask. If you're not quoting something, if it's on that print somewhere or it's in the RFQ and we're not doing it, if it's a plate, if it's a tolerance that we can't meet, whatever it is, if it's a feature, because we're just blanking it out, right? It's got to be in there in writing somewhere that, this is exactly what we're doing. Who are we doing the plate with? It better be in there. And are they sending certs with that plate? It better be in there. Who are we getting the material from? Like, I make them do everything. I mean, I get some pushback sometimes on it. Like, oh, we don't have time for that. I'm like, it's 2 seconds now. And 6 months, it's going to be how many hours to recreate what were we thinking, right? So it starts with good collection of data. And then it's, it is trusting my guys to know what they're doing when they're estimating and the years of experience that they have doing it. And then using the tools, we can use now like Mastercam to help us quote. We have specific quoting software for the Citizen screw machines as well. So utilizing all of that technology, 3D models and stuff to be able to get an accurate cycle time. And then all of that transfers to our job travelers. So everything about that job, how we quoted it, including like special tooling that we need to buy, whatever, that's all on the job traveler. So the minute that job isn't behaving like we quoted, it'll pop up either from our ERP or from Harmoni that this isn't meeting, these numbers that you put in that you estimated it at. So we know pretty much right away if it's not running how it should. And then we start problem solving. Usually we can figure it out. But, sometimes the first time you run a job, there's jobs that look stupid easy and you put them on a machine and they do not behave how you're thinking they're going to. And there's a lot of problem solving. So we anticipate that the first time around, especially if it's a challenging job. We know that sometimes it's the second, third, fourth time that you run it that like you really start to get in that groove and stuff. Occasionally we have to go back to customers and be like, this just did not work out how we thought. We'll usually honor that PO because it's not their fault.
Yeah.
But we give them a heads up that moving forward, these are, and we'll tell them, no, these are the dimensions that cause the challenge, or these are the features, and see if, because sometimes they'll come back and be like, oh, well, that doesn't really need to be that tight. Sure. No, that helps. So
it's great.
So communicating with the customer is kind of the huge thing there as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was a brilliant answer. I love it. Yeah, just all those concepts of just having the data, capturing it, from the very early stages, making sure that passes through to all the people downstream that need to
Mm-hmm.
know about that and put things into place. And that's fantastic. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Let's talk about your marketing and sales strategy today. You said you hired someone recently.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not a lot of small shops have a dedicated salesperson. Just talk about some of your rationale and what activities you have them doing, how that all works.
Yeah, so we hired our current salesman about 2 years ago, and we had one prior to that for about 5 years. We really wanted somebody just to kind of get a sales type department started.
Mm-hmm.
We've been very fortunate. We've had a lot of work kind of coming in sometimes faster than we can even quote it. But the problem with that is then you're not targeting and marketing to customers that you want to get, right? And we started to really see our mix of customers change. And, you know, it seems like it's good work coming in. But when you stand back a year or two later, you realize, man, this is not a good mix for us, right? For whatever reason, it's not working. We have too many short run jobs. We're always doing setups. They're all kind of the low profit, not the high profit, which both of them are good. You know, we need kind of all types of jobs in our shop, but they can't all be one or just one type of job. Exactly. So, you know, the answer is to hire somebody that's dedicated to looking for the type of work and the type of shops that you want to work with at that moment in time, and then looking ahead to make sure that the stuff that you want to do in the future, that they're starting to work on that. It doesn't happen overnight. So that's what led us to hire at a fairly young kind of age or size, I guess, to invest in a salesman. Now, our second salesman, we chose a different route. Instead of hiring a kind of a tenured, somebody that had been doing sales for years, we wanted to hire somebody that actually knew how to run machines. Because what we found is them being able to go out to a customer and evaluate a part and understand we can make this or we can't, and know how to make it, and be able to talk to the customers about it. It really was a much better tactic, I guess, for sales than just sending somebody out. Here's my card. Oh, here's like a picture, here's a flyer with a picture of all our machines. And I mean, I've had guys come in to sell to us before and didn't even know what machines they had on the floor, let alone what their capabilities were. I'm like, I don't want that. They need to be able to speak intelligently about what we do, and they're going to get better work for it too. So we had a guy that had been a machinist for years with us. He left for a while. He wanted to go be a cop. And then he came back and he wanted to do sales. And we're like, this is going to be great because the machining, you want to do sales. It was just a match made in heaven. It worked out for us. And we were able to seize that opportunity when it was presented to us, right? So he does sales and some project management of really challenging jobs, so that company knows that their job is being handled by the same person, kind of start to finish, and they really appreciate that.
Huh. That's really interesting. So beyond the technical skills of knowing how the parts were made, what other qualities did that guy have besides wanting to do it? Because probably not a lot of shops out there listening have someone that's like, yeah, I'm a machinist. Let me jump into your sales department.
Well, right, because that's not usually the demeanor of a machinist, right? But every now and then.
You're saying they don't like people. They just like their machines. Leave me alone. Yeah. I'm going to make parts. So,
right.
So what should someone look for?
I mean, for him, he is a people person. He learned how to run machines because at the time we hired him actually when he was in high school. So that was the shop floors where he kind of grew up at, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know that he ever wanted to run machines his whole life, but he appreciated the opportunity and he learned. And so if we look at his trajectory, we go clear back to then, is even if he didn't want to be a machinist for the rest of his life, at the time that he was working for us, he was a learner. He had drive. He had good work ethic. He was trustful. He was honest, right? Those are the qualities we're looking for in any employee. When he came back to us, he was willing to do another year, almost 2 years on the shop floor to reacquaint himself with that. That's a dedication. That's investment in us, and we're investing in him as well. Now, what made him good for sales? That was kind of his natural demeanor. I mean, he likes people. He likes the diversity of seeing other shops and getting out of our shop and not just standing at a machine every day. So he just had those natural inclinations for sales and to be social. So that helped. And unlike a lot of the younger generation, he's not afraid to use the phone. That you should probably edit out.
I think that'll resonate with everybody. It's probably worth keeping in.
So so I don't know, maybe delete all of that and just say he's not afraid to use the phone.
That's a nice one line answer. Yeah. Oh gosh, I know. I tell you, with my kids in their early 20s, they never pick up the phone, just texts, and it's like.
But they all want smartphones. They want like $1,000 smartphones. It's like, why? You're not even going to use it for its like main function.
Exactly. It's called a phone for a reason. That's awesome. What are some of the biggest challenges you're facing today? And what are you doing about them?
For today, it's actually our growth.
Okay.
I think I said this before, is we've had work coming in kind of so fast that we're growing very fast. There are a lot of good opportunities, but it's how to manage that, because, we can either intentionally slow it down, which always seems like a bad idea, but sometimes it's not. I mean, we've done that in the past before. But also it's managing the types of customers and jobs and stuff that are coming in, and then balancing it with what we have on the floor. We can only bring so many machinists in at a time and get them well trained and integrated. And we only have so much room on our shop floor for machines. I mean, we moved into this shop 10,000 square feet from essentially an oversized garage. We had 2 machines.
Right.
We had so much space, like we rented half of it out and we still had more space than we could do anything with. I was not on board with buying such a huge building when they were ready to move. I'm like, again, this is risk adverse me. I'm like, we're coming from about a 2,000, 2,500 square foot shop. We don't need a 10,000 square foot shop that can fit 10 like office employees in there. Like, that's way too much money. They're like, no, it'll be fine. It is. It has been fantastic. But now that shop, we have room for a few more machines, and then we'll be maxed out. So we have to look at like which machines do we want to put in, and do we put machines that we want and new technology, or do we just keep adding machines that the customers like? I could put 100 Swiss machines out there, and there would always be work for them, but it's the same thing that everybody else has, right? Or do we want to get new technology and be more diverse and offer things that other people are not? So those are the kind of challenges. And then, what areas do we want to grow in? For us, we've chosen to try and expand with the DoD a little bit by jumping on the cybersecurity and the CMMC that we're gradually getting there. But, that is a growth opportunity. Sometimes that means we have to say no to other things because we only have so much bandwidth in our shop.
Yeah.
So those are kind of our challenges.
Okay. That's a very thoughtful way to put it. Let's talk a little bit about your Top Shop Award. Was it for shop floor practices? Remind me. Is that what it was?
Shop floor practices.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about, beyond perhaps what we've already discussed, any specific things that helped you hit the very top of that category.
Well, I really think it was because of just our natural inclinations that we have already talked about, right? That desire to have low overhead, low employee count compared to, machines on the floor. It drove us towards automation. So every production machine that we have out there has some type of automation. The Swiss machines have automatic bar feeders. All of them but one have magazine bar feeders. We can load them up and they just run. We have a 5-axis mill that we put on the shop floor about 1.5 years ago. It's got a full robot arm that can do everything. We can load up a table. It'll run for 36 hours. And like 36 hours, nobody has to do anything with it. And,
Awesome.
It takes 15 minutes to load a table up. So a lot of just those very organic things that we were just driven to do because it suited how we wanted to run a shop also made us very automated and very lean when it comes to our shop floor. And then on top of that, from my perspective, again, I'm a systems kind of person. So I look at programs that we put in place, systems we put in place, software that we put in place. Every time we do one of those things, it drives that efficiency to be better. Usually when we drive that efficiency to be better, what we've done is for the employees out there, we've removed kind of the mundane tasks that drive them down, the repetitive things that drive them down. I'm not looking to replace my employees with robotics or automation. I'm looking to take the stuff that nobody likes to do, the repetitive things that drag them down. I want to take that out of their lives so that they can use their brains, their knowledge, their skills to do actual machining, not just stand there and measure something or stand there and flip a part around or hand deburr something, right? Like those are not things that I need to pay somebody $30+ an hour to do. A robot can do that for way cheaper. So that automation again comes just kind of naturally to us. Like I want to pay people for their knowledge and their skill.
Mm-hmm.
The other stuff we can automate. So that's really what drove that top shop, the shop floor award, is because we've really tried to automate that kind of stuff, the low skill things that are out there. And it's the stuff my guys don't like doing anyways. Mm-hmm. So, why make them do it?
Yeah. Brent Donaldson just shared an article maybe a week or two ago, came out in the magazine and shared it on LinkedIn as well. And I just read it this morning and posted something about it, but it was about like China has this sort of national level policy to become a, automated manufacturing powerhouse. Yeah. And the US doesn't mm-hmm. really have that same alignment at the highest leadership level. So it's up to each individual shop to do what they can do, to essentially do what you have done, right? To mm-hmm. raise the bar, put automation in, digital transformation, all the things that help you create, more value with less resources. Mm-hmm. So I think I appreciate what you're all describing and sharing it with everybody, because I know there's a lot of shops out there that haven't quite made that full leap. Some might be, they might have gotten a cobot, they might have, gotten a bar feeder for their lathe. But for folks that are out there just with some apprehension about, whether they can, whether it's the dollar investment or the technology, understanding it and getting their team to adopt it and embrace it, maybe just share some of your wisdom about taking the leap and just getting it done, or inspiring them to action or whatever.
Right. So I would love to say that there's some kind of silver bullet out there to do this. But at the end of the day, everything that we do in our shop there's a risk involved in it. Sure. That's what business owners do every day, all day, right? There's risk. Now, everything we also do has the possibility of a reward, and it just turns into it's a return on investment, right? So everything we do is simply an investment into our shop, into our shop floor. And those investments can change the trajectory of your shop. Sometimes you just have to take the risk and invest in the automation or the robot or the new technology. It needs to be a calculated risk. Sure, you need to do your homework, but it's no different than, if you're going to put just another 3-axis mill on your floor. You've got 5 of them and you're just going to do another one because you could fill it up with work. It's still a risk. It's still a cost that you're going to incur, and it's going to have a return on investment. Now, the difference is you kind of know what that one's going to be, right? Because you've got, how many X amount of other machines doing it. You put in a new technology, your costs are going to be higher. Your training is going to be higher. Now you got to have somebody to train it, and, you've got to have somebody go out and sell it. So is the risk a little higher? Sure. But your rewards are going to be higher because you presumably now have something that you didn't before that can bring higher profitable work, or that nobody else has that on the floor. So you get the jump on everybody else. And if you treat your customers well, they're not going to leave you. They're not going to leave you if you've done nothing wrong, if you've serviced them well, if you've given them good products, and you always have the machines and the resources and the services that they need, right? They have no reason to leave you and go somewhere else. So at the end of the day, it's a business decision, and you have to decide, do you want to be a little more aggressive and on the front end of technology, or do you not? And that's how we looked at it. Now for us, and where we're at now, just in the industry, you have the added pressures of employee shortages, employees, not having training or skills. So to me, it seems natural to kind of gravitate towards these areas where there's automation and improved efficiency and stuff like that, because it combats a lot of what we're facing in our industry right now.
Right.
But you just got to take the leap and do it.
All right. Everyone hear that. Go maybe push yourself outside your comfort zone a little bit. And
way outside your comfort zone.
Okay, way outside. Jayme, you heard it from Jayme right here. Your story of that first machine and the customer that went belly up, that is quite a story. Do you have another one or two just really memorable moments or poignant things over the years that maybe have just, are great stories or poignant inflections in the growth?
My father-in-law does like to talk about the one with the building. And I kind of alluded to that a little earlier, but we were in an oversized garage. We had 2 Swiss machines like jammed in there. We didn't even have a tow motor. There was no room for it, right? Tiny little shop. And we had to move out. It was his brother's house and it was his brother's garage, right? And his brother was moving. So we came from essentially no rent and a tiny little shop to now we have to find something. Well, I mean, okay, like 5,000 square feet would have been fine. We needed basically 0 office space because it's just me and we have 2 machines. It should be cheap. And I didn't get to go. They went basically house shopping for a new business or a new location. And they found this beautiful building. I mean, it's where we're at now. It is beautiful. It had actually had ceilings in it, and like drywall, like on the walls, and like super nice thick concrete floors. This was not a dirty industrial building. It had office space up front for like 10 desks, I think they had in it at the time. Okay. And I'm like, there's 3 of us. Like, what are you thinking? And at the time, and this is 15, 20 years ago, $500,000, which was a huge amount of money. So this is all of us, again, talk about remortgage the houses, right? Like, yes, we set up as a corporation, but that only goes so far. The banks know that. So the banks are like, now you personally got to sign for it, right? So I told him, no, like, this is ridiculous. We don't need this. And he's like, no, I think this is the building we want. Go, like, make it work. I'm like, I don't want this building. Like, it's way too expensive. We don't need it. He's like, right, but that's exactly why you'll make it work. Because, like, you're not going to, you're not going to take that risk. And he wasn't wrong. So I did make it work. And we worked out actually a deal with the owner to do a land contract. So it was favorable for both of us. And, I did my stuff to minimize the risk. Right. And we moved our tiny 2 little machines into this gigantic space. And then I immediately rented half of it out. I'm like, we don't need all this space. They can help pay on this. Right. And so we rented it out for a while. Now, in the end, like everything else, he laughed about it. He's like, yeah, but it all worked out. I'm like, yeah, but from my standpoint, that was really scary, but he loves telling that story because in the end it did work out. And now here we are getting ready to grow out of it. He's like, I should have got us a bigger building back then. I'm like, stop. Stop.
Sure. So. Yeah. No, that's good. And it's cool that you bought the building rather than just renting another space, because I'm sure that building is worth a lot more than $500,000 today.
You know what? It is, and it's paid off, and now it's an asset for us. And now, it's ours. We can build onto it if we want, or we could sell it and buy something else. I don't think we'll do that, but you're right. Now it's an asset, and also we were able to stay here for this length of time and not have to worry about getting kicked out because they want to rent to somebody else or who knows what else. So yes, hindsight being what it is, it was a great decision, but again, it feels very risky on the front end when you're making those investments. That's just the story of our life. And in a nutshell, that's what I'll say is they have these grand ideas and take these very things that feel to me very risky. And then they say, this is what we're doing. And then they tell me to make it work with the least amount of risk. And that's how we work together.
I like it. Again, good pairing, good strengths supporting each other. So you've shared a lot of really great advice and things you've done over your past. If you were going to kind of sum it up and share to a listener that maybe has a newer business or isn't as big or established as you about the best things they can do to kind of ensure their longevity and success, what would you recommend?
I would say, like you said, running a shop isn't easy, right? And if anybody tells you that it is, they've not done it. You're going to hit downturns. You're going to question if what you're doing is right, if you should even be running a machine shop, if this is even what you should be doing, right? But along the way, you're going to learn a lot of lessons from those things. And that's what we have to do. We have to learn in the good times and in the bad times, right? Most of the lessons that really taught us something weren't when things were going great. They were when they weren't so great. And by and large, they were things that were not our fault. They were pressures from the industry and the outside world that we had no control over. So learn from those. But if you stay committed, if you take care of your people, if you everybody that you interact with, you treat it as a relationship, and their people, your vendors, your customers, your employees, everybody that you interact with, it's all going to add up, and it's going to turn you into a great shop. And so you just kind of have to keep going. It really is an accumulation of those things that you do every day. It's not these just gigantic steps. I mean, I love the story about our first Swiss and about, getting this building, but those are two giant things.
Yeah.
And out of how many decisions we make on a daily basis over the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years, right? Most of what has made us what we are, the daily decisions to keep pursuing, to keep doing the right thing, to do what's right for your shop and right for your people, regardless of what the rest of the industry is doing. If I made the choices just based on what the rest of the industry was doing, we'd probably still be running manual machines and doing tool and die work, but those weren't the decisions we made. We did what was best for our shop, even when it seemed to break the mold. And I guess that's what you're kind of looking to do, because that's how you're going to grow and be different than the rest of your competitors.
All right. That was an awesome answer. Well, I think we should wrap this one up. I'd love for you to share how people can reach out, and if they want to learn more about Midway Swiss or connect with you, where would you direct them?
I would direct them to the website, only because I don't know what my LinkedIn is.
Okay.
I should have come prepared with that.
Well, it probably has a bunch of letters and numbers at the end of it.
Right.
But,
that's my salesman's thing. That's his job, right?
Exactly. So midwayswissturn.com is your website.
Yep, midwayswissturn.com. Yeah, you're right. I don't know that I want to put my email address out there. Yeah.
That's a good idea to not do that.
Oh, we do have a LinkedIn. I have a LinkedIn, Jayme Rahz on LinkedIn. My name's unique, so they'll find it. And then Midway Swiss Turn's on LinkedIn as well.
Okay, very good. And it's Jayme for those that are just listening only.
Yep.
And then just pull up LinkedIn to connect. But Jayme, this has been a delight. Thank you so much for sharing. Congratulations on the honor with Top Shops. And just
Thank you.
Clearly you guys are being very intentional about the way you grow this business. And it's cool for you to share it with the rest of the metalworking nation here today. Well,
thank you for having me on. It's been an honor. And I always enjoyed talking about shop with you.
Very good. Thank you, Jayme. Have a great day.
Paul, tell me about your trip to Italy.
I went there with the NTMA and we got to tour SMW Autoblok, 2 different facilities. Absolutely blew me away. World-class, enormous places. I can't even count how many machines there were, but so much automation. One of the most incredible takeaways for me was the breadth of what they made. I did not know they made so many workholding products and automation products. And I loved watching a big chuck machine a little chuck. So they were machining chucks in huge lathes. I thought that was super fun.
Yeah, you introduced them to me after you came back, and they've been to my shop. And the ideas they have to like breathe new life into some of my machines and the tools and the jobs that we're running was just shocking.
And then one of the coolest things is we're bringing this new automated pallet delivery system, the Hennig workflow, to market. And guess what the interface is? It's SMW 0-point locators. It's really sweet.
We're getting ready to get some of those.
So how do people find SMW Autoblok to look through that massive catalog of products?
It's SMW Autoblok, BLOK.com.
Yeah, get rid of that C. SMW Autoblok, BLOK.com.